3-team deal here between the Warriors, Clippers, and Trailblazers that I proposed, as I said, on BlueManHoop.com earlier today. It would see PG go to the Warriors, obviously. It would see Jeremy Grant, GP2, and Loon head to the Clippers. And it would be CP3, 2027 first-round pick from the Warriors, and 2029 and 2030 second-round picks from the Warriors go to the Trailblazers. Let's unpack that for a second from all three sides. The Warriors absolutely do it in a heartbeat. There's no doubt about that. There's absolutely no doubt that the Warriors do that trade where they give up GP2, Loon, CP3, a 2027 first, and 2029 and 2030 second-round picks for Paul George. You'd make that trade. I know you've got to give up like one of your future picks, and that pick could actually be good. 2027, you're talking about Steph Curry being 39 years old. You're talking about Draymond Green being 37 years old. You're talking about Paul George being 37 years old. You do that trade, though, regardless. Okay? Absolute win-now deal, and it's worth it. Because guess what? You keep Jonathan Kuminga, you keep Brandon Podziemski, you keep Trayce Jackson-Davis, you keep Moses Moody. The four guys that are at the core of your young talent. And you've still got picks to utilize, and you've still got Andrew Wiggins. Here's what the Warrior roster would actually look like with that trade going down. It would be Steph, PG, Wiggs, JK, Draymond. So that could be your starting five. Pods, TJD, Moody, Guy Santos, who's got a non-guaranteed deal for next season at very cheap money. Warriors could utilize him in a trade or waive him if need be. But that's 9 players that in total are just under the first apron. So the first tax apron is $179 million, I believe, for next season. Those 9 players equate to 175, about that. So that's not bad. Again, Steph, PG, Wiggs, JK, Draymond, pretty good 5. Pods, TJD, decent. Moody could step into a bigger role. And that's before we get to draft and free agency, where the Warriors would obviously have limited financial flexibility in free agency. But if you could go and get Paul George, maybe you lure a good free agent or 2 on minimum chips. Who knows? You're going to have the 52nd overall pick at the draft. Maybe you can try and get another version of Trayce Jackson-Davis that can step right in and play a role straight away. Who knows? I think that's a pretty good roster to start with ahead of draft and free agency. Now, from the Clippers and the Trailblazers side of things, it's obviously a lot different. It's not such a winning trade for them, that's for sure. The Clippers, again, would have to be incentivized that, okay, we could lose PG for nothing. He's obviously opted in. Let's make sure we get something here. You keep the salary open, so you've just traded for the equivalent salary in Jeremy Grant, GP2, and Loon. And you've got a guy in Jeremy Grant who no one's saying is as good as Paul George, but he's an above-average starting forward. He's 4 years younger. He's under contract for another 4 years. The contract's weird because I don't think the Trailblazers should have given it to him by any means, given the direction they're going. However, it's not some albatross contract where you're like, no one wants to borrow that. Like, that's an horrific deal by any means. Like, it's not. It's, $30 million a year, which in the coming years, like, that's fine now, really. And then even more so in the coming years with the cap going up and up, like, that's going to be fine. It's a fine contract. It's okay. It's not great value. It's not bad value. It's fine. And so that allows you to remain competitive, I think, in the Western Conference with Kawhi Leonard. You can try and re-sign James Harden. I think they'd still be able to do that. Still have some trade. Maybe they try and move GP2 and Loon. I don't know. The other factor to all of this as I move into the Trailblazers is that assuming CP3 went to Portland, you'd imagine that they would waive him straight away, probably. Now, there's a way in which they could keep him and use him as a mentor for Scoot Henderson, which makes some sense, and maybe they have him for half a season and then they try and see if they can get anything for him at the mid-season trade deadline, see if there's a team out there that's chasing a veteran point guard for ahead of the playoffs. Who knows? And maybe they try and get an asset for him. I think the most likely scenario is that he would be waived, right? Which then could mean that, hang on, we've had reports that the Lakers and the Clippers would be interested if CP is a free agent. Well, then maybe the Clippers could orchestrate a way here if they think that the Trailblazers are going to waive Chris Paul, that they actually get CP3 kind of in this deal as well, then, and they pay him the minimum or taxpayer mid-level exception, whatever they've got access to for Chris Paul. So they actually end up with Chris Paul in this deal as well, kind of as a afterthought following the trade. So that would leave essentially for the Trailblazers, you're incentivized by the idea of, hey, we're going to full rebuilding mode. We need to be one of these teams that are young, giving opportunity to our young guys on the floor, but also off the floor, having full financial flexibility moving forward. And having Jeremy Grant under contract for another 4 years doesn't offer them that. And that was always the issue with this trade with this deal, is that you sign him to a 5-year, $160 million contract when you are literally just starting a rebuild. I think they did it like a couple of days before they traded Damian Lillard. And now you got all these guys, Anthony Simons, who could also be moved, but obviously Scoot, Shaden Sharp. Don't know what's going to happen with Ayton. They're going to have picks in the future. They are in rebuild mode. So you want to try and have the financial flexibility that some of the other younger teams are going to have, like the Magic have right now, albeit they're in a slightly different spot because they took a massive jump this season. The Spurs are going to have as well moving forward to try and find the perfect piece to pair with Wemby when the right time comes. Could be this offseason with Darius Garland, could be next season, year after, whatever it may be. Like the Thunder as well, where they, even though they've won the Western Conference in the regular season this year, they have cap space still as such a young team. So that is what the Trailblazers should want. Financial flexibility to go out and once these young guys develop, go and specifically pick at what they need on the trade market or in free agency.